am once again in my cozy knitting corner, working on a little project while thinking about the cheesy romantic Hallmark Channel movie I just watched. So I'm currently knitting up a lace shawl. I am obsessed with knitting lace shawls. I love to knit lace shawls. In fact, if I could only knit one thing for the rest of my life, it would be lace shawls. I have knit so many lace shawls that I literally have bins of them in my craft room, just sitting there. I mean, I can see the story now. Woman dies when horde of lace shawls falls and suffocates her. So I clearly have a problem, she says as she continues to knit a lace shawl. I'm nothing if not hypocritical. Anyways, the movie we're going to be discussing today is Love on Harbor Island. Now, usually when I go into these movies, go to watch them, I have some idea what they're about. I usually watch the trailers or I see the commercials on the Hallmark Channel probably about 1,000 times before I see the movie itself. But for this one, I had no idea. Literally not a clue. I knew it was called Love on Harbor Island, so I figured it took place on an island in a harbor. But that was the extent of my knowledge of this movie, so it was nice to be surprised and have absolutely no idea what was going on going into it. I did realize at one point when the main character is like, oh, I'm in the garden suite, I realized I had seen an advertisement for it, but it was like in a mixed clip, so one of those where they have multiple ads all into one and they just keep showing clips from the different ones. So I'd seen that one clip, but I still had no idea what it was about. Alright, let's get into a little synopsis of the movie. We start off with Lily, who lives in Seattle. I made note of what city she lived in this time because there always is a big city and I can never remember what big city it is, so I actually made note of it this time. She works for an interior design firm. Of course she does. That's one of Hallmark's favorite careers for their leading ladies. She's not actually an interior designer, she's just an assistant, but she's trying to become an interior designer. Well, while she's out to dinner with her boyfriend, because once again, she's got a boyfriend. I swear, this is the third Hallmark movie out of 4. So I've reviewed 4 movies, 3 of them, the main character, woman, had a boyfriend when the movie started. Like, I give up at this point. Seriously. Anyways, she's out to dinner with her boyfriend when her best friend calls to tell her that her aunt has had a fall. And so she races off to her aunt's inn, the family-run inn on Harbor Island, to help out. The pilot that flies her over to Harbor Island is Marcus, our leading man, and in between flying, he also runs a dog rescue. Another cliched profession for Hallmark. Let's see, we got dog rescue and interior design. They're like up here with popularity. I mean, they're not Baker, but they're definitely common. I don't think there's been any pilots. I don't remember seeing any with pilots, so at least that's kind of novel. So I say that now and probably I'll go and watch like 5 more movies and they'll all be pilots. So throughout the movie, Marcus and Lily keep running into each other throughout town because, well, I mean, it's a small town on an island, so where else are you going to be? Not to mention he's also staying at the inn, in the garden suite, as mentioned before from the ad. Now, Lily's aunt is having trouble running the inn. It's fallen into disrepair. She's not making enough money, so she has decided to sell it. And Lily is supportive and is like, hey, okay, yeah, let me help you out. I will help get some, cosmetic repairs done and get it all staged for the open house so that you can sell the inn, even though she's a little disappointed about it. She also ropes in Marcus to help her out with the repairs and some of the work on the inn. So while all this is going on, Brad, her boyfriend, or Bradford, no, Bradford. I don't know if they ever called him Brad. I call him Brad. Brad. He swings by to the island, comes over one night to have dinner with Lily, since their dinner was interrupted that one night in Seattle when she got the call. And the two of them go out to dinner, and afterwards they're like, this isn't working, and they break up. It was actually the most amicable breakup I've ever witnessed. It pretty much went with, hey, this isn't really working for me anymore. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. And then Brad's like, I'll see you back in Seattle then. Like, literally that was it. There was no, like, goodbye or this meant so much to me. It was a very interesting breakup. Unlike anything I've ever seen. Like, did they not have any emotional investment at all? Interesting. So then when she gets back to the inn the next day, her and Marcus are working on a wall. He's like, oh, how was your dinner with Brad? And she's like, oh, we broke up. And then he's like, oh, no, are you okay? And in that moment, it was really sweet. His expression, his concern, so sweet.
So, how was dinner last night?
It was okay.
Oh?
The food was delicious, but we decided to break up.
You okay?
Yeah, it was time.
Now, naturally, while all this is going on, the whole town is preparing for the Lantern Festival. Because you can't have a small town in a Hallmark Channel movie without some big town-wide event. And in this case, it's the Lantern Festival. Lily, of course, submits a lantern. She wins. She makes this big acceptance speech, during which I was kind of like, wait, what? Why is she talking? They announce the winner. She walks up on stage, accepts her prize, and then they give her the microphone. And I'm like, why do you need a speech for winning first place in the Lantern Festival? But anyways, not important. Marcus and Lily continue to grow close to each other because they're working to fix up the inn, and in exchange for helping with the inn, Lily has offered to help Marcus build a website to help adopt out the dogs from the rescue. And so then they get their first family that adopts a dog via the website, and they go and deliver the dog together. And they really bond over the experience. They're talking, have this deep, meaningful conversation, and they're coming back toward the inn when, standing on the porch of the inn, holding a bouquet of flowers, is Bradford. Now, Hallmark channels are notorious for this, where in the last 20 minutes of the film, they manufacture some sort of conflict between the two love interests. Now, I know this, and I should have been expecting it. But this caught me off guard. In fact, honestly, I wasn't even that invested in this movie. I mean, I was invested, but usually while I'm watching these movies, I'm doing other things at the same time. I might be knitting. In this case, I was actually doing laundry. In the commercial breaks, I would go down and I'd switch out the loads in the washer dryer, and I was folding and putting away laundry while I was watching this movie. So I was kind of like only half watching, and yet when Bradford appeared, I was like, whoa, what? Like, I literally spoke out loud. That's how shocked I was. But then we get back from commercial break, and it turns out he's just there for the open house because he's in real estate. Haha, Hallmark. Nice little bait before the commercial break. You got me. Got me for sure. Now, Bradford's not there alone. He's got his partner with him from his real estate agency. And his partner is super interested in the inn and its land. Because it's not only is it the inn, it comes with several acres of land, of waterfront land. Yeah, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. Many acres of waterfront. Well, apparently Lily and her aunt are pretty naive because they thought people would just be interested in the inn. This inn that has fallen apart has a cracked foundation, probably will cost more to repair than it will to bulldoze and build over. They think someone's going to buy it and repair it and not buy the land for development. Naturally, the partner is on the phone with the agency saying, hey, I'm going to make an offer for this land because it's going to be great for development. This is my shocked face. But Marcus overhears. He comes running to Lily and is like, hey, oh my gosh, your ex-boyfriend Bradford and his partner are totally buying this just to develop it. And Lily's like, Bradford wouldn't do that. And Marcus is like, oh, trust me, he would. He only cares about the money. And I'm like, dude, you've said all of 2 words to Bradford. How would you know what Bradford's doing? And second of all, you didn't even hear Bradford on the phone. You simply heard his partner. But Lily's like, no, that doesn't sound like Bradford. You're wrong. The fight that breaks them up, because there we go. There's our manufactured conflict. The partner comes in then, of course, makes the offer saying, we're going to develop this into condos. Lily's just like, oh. Bradford's like, oh. Because he had no idea. He's in real estate. How could he possibly not know that's what they're planning to do? Why is that not his plan? Anyways. So he goes to Lily and he apologizes. He's like, hey, I had no idea that was what was going to happen. Don't take the offer. Wait till someone comes along, the right buyer, and then you can sell. You don't have to sell to him to develop. So Bradford, totally redeemed. However, in the end, Lily ultimately decides that she is going to ask the bank for a loan in order to fix up the inn. And that she's going to quit her job as an interior designer, or interior design assistant, I should say, and become an innkeeper. And then, of course, she and Marcus, they apologize to each other, they make up. Then he tells her, hey, I've put in an offer for the inn, a counter offer, only I put it in your name. Because he's basically buying the inn for her. To which I'm like, yes, please. Does anyone want to buy me waterfront property? Because I'll take it. Of course, she accepts. They kiss. Credits roll. Happily ever after. Moving on to the setting. Obviously, it takes place on an island in the fall. I wasn't sure it was fall at first. In fact, when it first started, I couldn't tell what season it was. Like, things were still green, but everyone was wearing coats. And this was part of like the summer romance series, summer nights. I don't remember what this year's summer series was called this year. But obviously it was part of their summer debut movies. So I was expecting it to be summer, and then when they were all wearing coats, I was like, what's going on here? And then it becomes quickly apparent that it's early fall, because then they start talking about fall things and calling it fall. So then I knew what was going on, but at first I was really confused. I don't know why did they have like an overabundance of fall movies one year and no summer ones? Because I feel like we saw a fall movie in the spring, we saw a fall movie in the summer. Like, what's with all the fall movies? At the wrong time of year. As for the physical location, she lives in Seattle, and then she just takes this little like puddle jumper plane to the island. And then later when Brad comes to visit her, Bradford, he comes via ferry. So I'm thinking the island must be in like Puget Sound or something. And close to Seattle, if that's all it takes to get there. And then the rest is all typical Hallmark Channel style. Small town, adorably quaint, picturesque front businesses, storefronts, sweet downtown. It's just adorable. All the decorations are up for the fall lantern festival. You know the drill. Typical. Alright, let's take a little bit of time to talk about our leads, Lily and Marcus. First up, Lily. I liked her. I liked her character. I especially liked how when her aunt told her that she was looking to sell, that even though Lily was sad about it, she didn't immediately be like, oh, we gotta save the end. Instead, she was like, no, I'm gonna help you out. She's supportive of her aunt's decision and life choices, and then uses what skills she has to help out her aunt by staging and repairing the inn in order to sell it. So I liked that about her. Now, obviously, in the end, she does end up buying it and saving it and whatnot, but that was a decision that came about after several weeks of thinking about it, while she was actually working there, and not a spur of the moment decision when she hadn't been there for years. And honestly, I was kind of wondering how this was going to end, because frankly, she seemed very interested in the interior design world, and it was something she was clearly pursuing. And I'm like, how are they going to combine this interior design desire with this small island town? And the answer is they didn't. Not really. Basically, she's becoming an innkeeper, and she has a little interior design blog that she'll probably maintain, but like that's it. She's just completely throwing away her dream to be an interior designer, which she may or may not regret at some point, but we'll see. I don't know how much interior design work a small, tiny island can sustain, but she's a fictional character. She doesn't have to worry about it. As for Marcus, he was fine doing his piloting and his pilots for pups business, rescuing dogs, being all sweet and endearing in that way. And also real help around the inn. The one thing about him that annoyed me, though, is that he kept calling Lily City Girl. Now, Lily, born and raised on this island, does not qualify as a city girl. Yet just because she lives there now doesn't make her a city girl. I'm like, dude, you're the one who moved to this island. You're the transplant, not her. Why are you mocking her for not living there currently? That was a weird choice. I don't know why that was part of the dialogue. I think it was supposed to be cute and teasing, but I just found it obnoxious. However, overall, the two of them worked together really well. There was no true meet cute because he flew her over in his plane, which we don't actually see until after they land. So we see them exiting the plane. So at this point, they'd already met and had been together for, I don't know, however long the flight was, so an hour less. I don't know, but so we missed that sort of opportunity for the initial meet. But while we didn't get a meet cute, what we did get was a little chemistry. So many of the movies I've seen lately, there's just been no chemistry between the leads. Ugh. So it was nice to see them actually, it being believable when they get together in the end. Like you're not repulsed by the idea of a kiss. The one thing that did bother me about the relationship was at the end. So Marcus basically accuses Bradford of being this money-grubbing jerk who was completely willing to throw Lily under the bus. and be hurtful by taking her families in and bulldozing it down to build condos. And he was wrong. But Lily writes him a note of apologizing for being wrong. So she's writing this note, she's like, I'm sorry, I was wrong, you were right. And I was like, well, hold on, well, what? What? He was wrong. You were wrong. Why are you apologizing? What? I don't understand what's happening here. I guess she was apologizing because he said that they were planning to do a development, and I guess he was right in that aspect. But he was completely off base without Bradford, and she only stood up for Bradford, as far as I remember. So what is she apologizing for? She has nothing to apologize for. Girl, don't do that. Don't apologize when you're right. He needs to apologize to you. And in the end, they actually do. She apologizes, but he also apologizes. But I need something more from him. And she should not have apologized for that. That was entirely on him. She had no reason to say sorry, and I was so confused, and then I was angry. And I can't believe he bought that in for her. Like, that's crazy. Imagine just buying property for someone you just met. I mean, if someone wants to buy me property, go ahead. Please do. I'd love it. But that was interesting. Normally I spend a lot of time talking about the secondary characters. However, in this one, I feel like the secondary character storylines were pretty weak. They're very little. So I've already talked a lot about Bradford, and I don't really have much to add other than they were clearly trying to make him look like a kind of a bad boyfriend, because when they were out to dinner, he would answer texts and take phone calls. So I think they were trying to portray him as kind of a jerk, but the truth is Lily did the same thing. Like, they're out to dinner, and when her friend called to tell her aunt had fallen, she took that call. Like, she did not know it was an emergency call. I mean, if it had been me, I probably would have let it go to voicemail. And then what if I saw, my mom or friend had called me 3 times in a row, then I'd be like, oh man, I should probably take this, there's something going on. But no, it rings once, and she's like, oh, I gotta take this. So it's not like her manners were all that spectacular either. So I don't really see what that was about. Another secondary character is her best friend Christy. So Christy is the chef or cook at the inn. So she's in a lot of scenes, but we don't really get to know Christy at all. All we know really is that she's a very good cook, baker. She's always foisting delicious baked goods on people. And I was hungry when I was watching this, so that was not a good combination. The muffins and the pastries, it was just, not a good combination. It was practically drooling. There was a cute scene where Christy and Lily were dancing in the kitchen to a song, and they were reenacting their high school dance competition number. And sort of Marcus walks in and catches them doing that. On the one hand, it was totally adorable. I liked that he walked in on that and sort of caught them in this moment where her guard's down and she's having fun. But on the other hand, who remembers the dance routine from high school? I could barely remember what I had for breakfast. I definitely cannot remember a dance from high school. I mean, certainly there are dances I've done in my life, because I did dance as a kid. So there are some dances I can remember a few steps from, a certain sequence, but not a whole thing. So is that just me? I mean, I have a terrible memory, so maybe it is just me, but I find it hard to believe that grown adults can remember whole dance routines from when they were teenagers. In addition to those characters, we also saw a bunch of the townsfolk, the guy from the newspaper, the guy that helped Marcus with the dog rescue, the woman who gets together with the guy who helps out with the dog rescue, and then sort of the other characters I want to mention are the dogs, because they were adorable. Oh my gosh, all the dogs were super cute. The movie really starts off with a terrier whom Marcus rescues, but he doesn't name, because he doesn't name dogs until he lets the people who adopt them name the dogs. But this is the dog that he's bringing around with him everywhere at the beginning of the movie, and really takes a liking to Lily, and therefore keeps running to Lily anytime they're in the vicinity of each other, which is how they manufacture those run-ins every time in town in the beginning. So the dog keeps pulling him towards Lily, so it's just like, oh, you again kind of deal. And then it's actually her website that she creates for him. It's a family that adopts the terrier and then delivering the terrier to this new family when they have this whole bonding moment. And when they drop off the dog, there's a little girl, and they're like, oh, what is her name? He's like, I haven't named her yet. She's like, oh, great. She's like, I'm going to name her Sandy. And I was like, Sandy! Yes! My excitement for the name Sandy is twofold. First off, Sandy's the name of the dog in Annie. So I don't know if you're familiar with Annie, the musical, you know, the sun will come out tomorrow. That Annie, which is one of my favorite musicals. But the real reason I was super excited, was because Sandy Harbor Margarita is the name of the cocktail I invented to go with this movie. So, little known fact, I do invent cocktails to go with all of the new release movies. I post some on my Instagram, Field Fancy Dreams, and also on my website, fieldfancydreams.com. So if you're interested in checking out the recipe, that's where that is. But usually I create those cocktails not having seen the movie, just based on either the title, something about the story, or what I'm feeling like at the moment, because honestly sometimes that's all it is. I feel like making a martini, so I make a martini. I don't really care about the movie itself. But in this case, I was thinking Harbor Island, which made me think of beach, which made me think of sand, hence the Sandy Island, or Sandy Harbor Margarita. And then when they named the dog Sandy, I was like, yes, nailed it. Alright, just some additional comments that didn't quite fit into what I've covered so far. I had mentioned that Lily had an interior design blog, which they did reference a few times throughout the movie. In the opening scene, she's interviewing for an interior design position within her firm, and the woman she's interviewing with is kind of like, hey, you know, I don't see enough you in your portfolio. And Lily's like, oh, here, I have some more on my blog. And I was kind of like, wait, did she say her blog? Is she bringing up her blog in a job interview? Now, obviously, if you're a writer or something, I can imagine a blog is extremely useful. But in interior design, I think your portfolio, your actual experience in the work that you've done, is more meaningful than a blog where you simply post pictures of other people's interior design, or post ideas you have for interior design. Because at this point, she doesn't really have a lot of experience. So what is she putting on her blog? I don't see how that would be helpful in this situation, and it wasn't. Their boss is like, no, thank you, I've seen enough. And then she's continuing to update the blog with pictures of the inn and the work she's doing at the inn throughout the movie. And the owner of the interior design firm, the one she'd interviewed before, calls her and is like, hey, I've been following your blog. I'm starting to see a lot of you in the work that you're doing. I'm ready to consider hiring you as an interior designer. And I was kind of like, the owner is following the assistant's blog? Okay. I mean, this seemed like a large firm, like not like these two women work together on a daily basis. This seemed like more, they had very little contact with each other on a day-to-day, and yet she was following her blog. I mean, maybe the executives I've worked with just, they would not have been bothered, but, you know, people like what they like, so maybe she was interested in following her blog. It's not the experience I've had, so I was really surprised by that bit. I don't really understand the purpose of the blog within the narrative. Because other than those like 2 instances, we just see her updating it, and then she's changing the name of the blog from like home is where the heart is, and then Harbor Island is where the heart is. So I guess we're showing that now she's fallen in love with the island and doesn't want to leave. I guess it's just to display that. I do want to comment on a couple of outfits that Lily wore. First off, there was this set of flamingo pajamas that she shows up in, which I absolutely loved. I totally wear those exact same pajamas, not the flamingo ones, but the same style of pajama. I just get the short sleeve ones. So when I saw them in the flamingo, I'm like, oh my gosh, does that mean I can get my PJs in a flamingo? And sure enough, I can. I did not, because I have enough pajamas. I don't need to buy new pajamas. But as soon as I do, I'm getting the flamingo ones.
I can make shepherd's pie.
Yes, that is number 1.
Then there was this green floral dress she wears for a date with Bradford. And it's very pretty, has this nice sweetheart neckline, sort of a puffy sleeve, but then it's long sleeved, and it comes down to like mid-calf and has really no decoration at all. It's not like A-line or anything, it's just there. It kind of reminds me of like something you'd see like a sister wife in it. It was very plain 80s, outdated, overly modest dress. It was just kind of like, and if her character was super modest and dressed really modestly this entire thing, I would not have questioned it, except her wardrobe up to that point had been just completely normal, like jeans, blouses, cardigans, kind of very normal outfits. So this really outdated, long sleeved, long dress was just out of left field. I was like, what is this dress?
Oh, pretty.
Thank you.
Have fun.
All right, have a good night.
Night.
I'll see you later. Hey, Marcus.
Evening. I'm sure he'll love it.
The Lantern Festival, I loved the idea of the Lantern Festival. At first I thought it was the lanterns where you light them and they float up and away, which is concerning environmental wise, because you don't want to start forest fires or pollute / litter lanterns everywhere. And then when they got into the actual festival itself, I realized no, they're like lanterns, like real lanterns, and that they put about through town. And I was like, oh my gosh, what an adorable idea. And the meaning behind it was so beautiful, because they're an island, they said to, light the way for our sailors to come home. And I was like, oh, what a beautiful sentiment. What a great little festival, little town festival idea. And then after the judging, he's like, all right, now you can go ahead and put your lanterns in the water. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Polluting the ocean, not cool. But where they put the lanterns, the water was like very still. They just sort of sat there. And I'm not sure if that was just because they were filming on set and they needed still water so they could get a good shot of all the lanterns sitting on the water, or if they just did it like in a little pond downtown. I want to believe it's because they didn't want to pollute the harbor, and therefore we're just using a pond in the downtown area so that they could easily clean them up pick them up all when it's done and not pollute the harbor. That's what I'm going with. And then my last note, which is a really minor thing, is right at the very beginning when we're in her office, she had this enormous pair of decorative glasses on her desk. What were those? I just caught them as like the camera's like pulling back. I'm just like, what is that on her desk? Are those glasses? enormous glasses? Are they a paperweight or something? I don't. What on earth? That is a design element I have never seen before. They were interesting for sure. Alright, so my final thoughts on this movie. It was a very enjoyable movie. The romantic leads had chemistry. The town was adorable. The other characters were fun. There were cute dogs. A lantern festival. I mean, it was a good one. Which is kind of nice because I've seen some really bad ones lately. So it's been a relief to actually enjoy this movie. And so if you're ever flipping channels and you come across Love on Harbor Island, I say go ahead and watch it. And with that, thank you so much for joining me in my cozy knitting corner. I hope you have a great week full of yarn and cheesy romance.